believe by the time the full integration is completed, we have a tax database that will be hovering over 45 million potential taxpayers in Nigeria.
This will not only ease the process of tax payment, it will also ease the process of doing business.
Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Namaka.
And I am Chiamaka Ohaochi.
A few episodes ago, we told you the story of the formal presentation of the new TIN registration system to the chairman of the Joint Tax Board, who is the executive chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service.
It will be recalled that the tax identification number scheme commenced way back in the year 2008. The objective at that time, which remains the objective today, is to enthrone a system that enables taxing authorities to uniquely identify each and every taxable individual and corporate organization.
As part of activities lined up for the roll-off slated for June 1st, 2019, the JTB organized a retreat for members of the Technical Working Committee of the project. Resource persons at the retreat, which was declared open by the Executive Chairman FIRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, took participants through a series of lectures aimed at preparing them for the task ahead. Mr. Oduba was the project manager of the TIN project at inception in 2008. He presented a paper on behalf of Mrs. Ifweko Okauru, who was also at inception of the scheme, the Executive Chairman FIRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board.
Before you can collect or assess or account for the tax or the monies that have been so collected, there was a need to identify who the taxpayer really is. How do we identify the taxpayers? How do you ensure that taxpayers are identified in the country? As of 2008, the only identity management that was being done on individuals was the National Identity Commission, the former Department of National Civic Registration. They were the ones capturing fingerprints of individuals. We did recognize also that there was another body also charged with the responsibility of identifying non-individuals, and that was the Corporate Affairs Commission. So there was a need to collaborate with those who can identify the individuals being NIMC and those who can identify the non-individuals being Corporate Affairs Commission. The DNCR or NIMC, as it were, their database did not cover majority of Nigerians. And therefore, it meant we have to look for a way to register taxpayers. How do you register somebody who is not necessarily living in one place for the rest of his life? We believe, as at that time, the most mature technology in terms of unique identification of individuals was the biometrics, fingerprints. There are other technologies today that you can say, oh, we can use iris, we can use this, or we can use this. But we are talking about 2008. That is about almost 11 years ago. Remember that we were just to identify taxpayers. We're not doing collection, we're not doing assessment, we're not doing accounting. Identify taxpayers. When you say you're identifying taxpayers and you say you are sharing information, what does it involve? Is it only to capture the details of a taxpayer, full stop? Of course not. If you do that, there's no way you'll be able to share meaningful information. And therefore, even though it was a taxpayer identification numbering system, there was a need to capture beyond just details of taxpayer, some other information that could assist the tax authorities and FIRS to manage their own processes better. Before this time, there was a project running in FIRS that the FIRS management were involved in called Project FACT, which was a collection system. There are some states were also doing registration, whether in one form or the other. Some of them were using Microsoft Word to register people, some Excel. Then some states already were now running pay direct, which required that you needed a payer ID, so which was also a means of registration. So we tried to marry all this to come up with a registration form that will capture most of what all the states are doing. And so we had a very bulky registration form because in an attempt to accommodate every person. So we had a very bulky registration form. Now, we had also decided, because that is what some of you may not have that information, so I gave that information. We thought, because it was an identity management, we needed to identify taxpayers. If somebody registers and he wants to walk away, and you say, you have registered, will the person believe that he has registered? And so that was why we thought we should introduce cards, tax cards. Now, the tax card, the essence of the tax card was just so that the person will know that he has registered. But we also were very mindful of the fact that the National Identity Management Commission was registering and issuing cards. So in our planning, we had planned that we are not going to issue more than 5 million cards, ever. That by the time we are almost finishing issuing 5 million cards, NIMC would have taken over the issuance of cards to taxpayers. Because we're also part of the NIMC project. Like I said, there was a representative of NIMC on this project as well. So we were aware of what NIMC was doing. We were aware that NIMC has an applet on their card for tax. But because they were not ready yet, we felt, let's start. But we believe that by the time we are getting to 5 million cards, NIMC would have taken over the issuance of cards. This project will cease issuing cards. But over and above all this, the desire was for us to exchange data amongst the tax authorities as well as other third parties like CAC, NIMC, and the rest of it. In terms of data exchange, we had thought that we need to exchange data with road safety, immigration, customs, and the rest. That is why if you check the road safety license application form, there's TIN. Immigration as well, I think for their passport, there's TIN as well. So most of those organizations have now provided for TIN because that was where we thought we would be going so that we can easily exchange data amongst all the revenue collecting agencies in the country.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams (FEET) on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate (TCC). Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Welcome back. On this episode, we are telling you the story of the imminent rollout of the new TIN system. And in doing that, we are telling you the story of the retreat organized by the JTB for members of the Technical Working Committee of the TIN project. What impact will a reliable TIN system have on the tax administration system in particular and the economy in general?
The system we have now that we are developing and that is ready is for tax authorities to be able to do proper tax administration. That is, day-to-day routines, assessment, collection, and reporting. What are we talking about? This data is not just going to be profiling taxpayers alone. It's going to be giving the SBRs the right set of data and information for them to do assessment. If you see custom service, we integrate with custom service and data will come to the tax authority. If you pretend to be an artisan and we now see that you have a Lexus, like 5 of them, different brands, the tax authority will know this man is not an artisan. So it will give you the right kind of information you need to be able to do tax administration, proper one. And that is what we are bringing on table, adding value, making a difference between what we had, that Mr. Oluba talked about in the past, and what we have now, and what we are going to be working with. Then the next thing the system has is analytics. We are building analytics into the new system, which was not in the old system. The analytics is to tell you those things you are not readily aware of, to reveal the hidden things you are not ordinarily looking at the system for. Like you are doing data mining. It will show that this is the son and this is the father. It will find a way to link them together. When you say you have only 2 wives, meanwhile you have 5 wives, and all of them have houses all over the place, the system will point out, it will give you dashboard and say, it will be thinking for you. That is what we mean. The system will be thinking for the tax authority, the tax man, to say, I want to link this and this. Can you see? This man has a Jaguar, and he said the only car he has is a Corolla 2004.
If people begin to know that with their TIN, whatever you need to do in the country, you need the TIN, then a lot of persons will volunteer to even go and get the TIN themselves. We need to look for a way to enforce the adoption of TIN by the MDS or SDS using the TIN regulation. The TIN regulation has sanctions for even the MDS who have refused to use the TIN. The legal teams may have to look at it again and see how enforcement of the regulations can be done.
In his own presentation, Mr. Paul Omoregbe delved into greater details.
The new system is designed in such a way that registrations can be done automatically. For example, the kind of integration we have with CAC is such that a newly registered taxpayer with CAC, a company, would naturally, CAC gives them about 24 hours before the RC numbers are out, or 48 hours. Now, within that window, the system sends the records to JTB, we generate TIN numbers, and then we inform CAC. So, as a newly registered company, you wouldn't have to come back to JTB to register for TIN, which is what we do before now. You bring a certificate and then you walk in and register. Now, automatically, the system can actually generate the TIN numbers and make it available to the taxpayer. We've also know that for legacy data, we might still have people who are walking in. So we also have that API with CAC that allows us to actually register you also when you walk in. Something new we've added to this is the mobile application. So recall that the old project was running on some very heavy applications, Oracle forms and all of that. It wasn't easy to access these applications using a very normal, internet bandwidth. So the new system is actually a lightweight application that can be accessed very easily. And we've also deployed a mobile app application that will also give user better experience and ease of accessing the record. The delivery approach is such that the taxpayers can actually get registered in the system in 3 ways. One is the automatic process, which is the taxpayer doesn't have to come to us. Automatically, his record is being pulled from either BVN or from CAC, and then we generate the TIN numbers automatically. The second is he walks into the office. For the individuals, we don't expect, if we're integrating with BVN, we would not expect you to walk in, because the idea is for us to leverage on the identification, fingerprint identification system of NIBS. So you have to get a TIN number before you come to us. But for CAC, we expect that we'll have very limited number of people walking in. We had collected legacy data from CAC, and so we expect that only very minimal number of corporate taxpayers will be coming in. And then, of course, this system has also given advantages and given power to the taxpayers. Before now, the registration officers were like the backbone of the project. And these are concerns that we've all expressed here. But in this new system, taxpayers can initiate their registrations by themselves. And then the system, the registration application goes through the normal process of approval and all of that. So we reduce the interaction between taxpayers and the tax registration officer. And also remember that in the old system, the registration office was something that we needed to equip so hard. We don't really need that now. Registration officers must not even sit in one office, because from the comfort of your home, or even while you are driving, while you're in a taxi, you can actually initiate approvals or, interact with the system. So taxpayers would have the leverage to also go online, also make requests, give feedbacks and all of that. This system is not a very, complex system where you need to have one knowledge in database mining and all of that before you can access it. Anybody who can book an airline on the internet should be able to use this system. So it's very user-friendly. But what we've deployed now is a web-based system whereby any registration officer who knows how to use a normal system to do one or two things should be able to actually make use of the system.
At the end of the retreat, a communique was issued.
The committee deliberated on various issues related to the effective implementation of the new taxpayer identification registration system and adopted the following resolution as its communique. 1. There should be inclusiveness in the design and implementation of the new TIN registration system. The technical working committee should be expanded with representatives from critical stakeholder agencies such as the Nigeria Identity Management Company, the Nigerian Immigration Service, the National Communication Commission, and of course, the Nigerian Customs Service as the need arises. The Joint Task Board and other relevant stakeholders should partner with religious bodies, traditional rulers, and trade associations in the dissemination of information. There should be aggressive tax education, sensitization, and enlightenment of the taxpayer on the new TIN registration system. State revenue authorities should be encouraged to deploy integrated tax administration system models based on the new TIN registration system to enable them automate the issuance and verification of tax clearance certificates as the need arises. There should be a unified integrated tax administration system for the country that will be centrally managed by JTB moving forward.
Tax Matters spoke with the Executive Secretary Joint Task Board for more insight on the new TIN system. On the rollout date of the new scheme,
the TIN registration system has always been in place. What has happened is that we have changed the strategy towards ensuring that we get all potential taxpayers register on the new TIN registration system that we have built. And the strategy this time was to leverage on the various identity management agencies that have captured data of both corporate and individuals with unique characteristics that matches clearly those who should be under the new tax administration system. So this is what we've achieved, and by the 1st of June, new TIN registration system will go live.
what's new?
Okay, I think you recall when the current chairman of JTB, who is also the executive chairman of Federal Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, came on board. He had as one of his focus towards optimizing revenue generation both at the federal and state levels, even up to local government level, that we must necessarily increase or expand the tax base. And for us to be able to do that, we must be able to bring potential taxpayers under the TIN registration system so that we can now start the tax administration system and raise assessment. So that is what gave rise to this. So what it did, first of all, was to get all the tax authority to sign an MOU on collaboration. And in line with the TIN regulation that has been in place since 2014, said they must now all collapse their silos of tax registration they were maintaining individually, because the issue of tax, Nigeria as a country is universal. It's a tax registration for everybody. That you are in Edo State today, you can move to Zamfara tomorrow, but you need one unique identifier in the system to be able to track you. So the state tax authorities and the federal revenue agreed to this. So as we speak now, the federal inland revenue no longer generate things of their own. The state tax authorities no longer generate things on them. They are now in full compliance with the tin regulation law, which state that one tax identification number should be assigned both to corporate entities or to individuals. So moving forward, those who already have the federal inland revenue thing, we use their old federal inland revenue thing side by side with the new tin number that will be assigned by JTB, which we're already doing, working in close collaboration with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Then for the individual taxpayers, we are leveraging on the identity registration that has been done by the Nigeria Identity Management Company, the NIPSI, and also the one that has been done now by the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System that gave rise to the BVN. In those two databases, we have close to over 45 individual records of people who maintain accounts that are there. And moving forward, we are going to now assign tax identification number to these individuals and then bring them into the tax net and make them available to the various tax authorities in line with the relevant tax laws where they reside.
On collaboration with critical stakeholders,
we've started that integration. We've already received about 2 million BVN data, and we are building middleware. We've done the user acceptance test, and we're just waiting to receive the balance record. And not just the records they now have, as they continue to issue BVN to people, we automatically, just like we are doing with companies, assign tax identification number. So when you go to open an account, and which is in conformity with the tax regulation, that for you to open a bank account, you must necessarily have a tax identification number. And for you to also have a tax identification number, you must ordinarily have a NIN number, which is the Nigerian National Identity Card Registration Number. So all of these systems are linked together. And what makes it unique is that they are all relying on biometric verification, which eliminates the issue of duplication. And then you can easily be able to clearly identify who are these individuals or who are these corporate bodies. We are getting maximum cooperation from all of these stakeholder agencies, and I believe that not too long from now, the issue of tax compliance will be something that will be easier for the taxpayer and also efficient management by the various tax authorities.
On how to take registration to rural areas?
It's minimal ICT infrastructure and capacity that they require to be able to access. If individuals with their mobile phone can access the internet and be able to even register for TIN at the comfort of their homes, talk less of authorities that have responsibility for collecting taxes, because they have provisions to earn what we call cost of collection to enable them build the capacity and the necessary ICT infrastructure to be able to access the new TIN registration system and then translate to increased revenue generation and add value both to the state and the various taxpayers by creating an ease of compliance.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEAT, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
We look forward with excitement to the rollout of the scheme on June 1st. Remember, fulfillment of your obligation as a taxpayer begins with the acquisition of TIN. See you next week.